Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're exploring the hidden treasure illusion, why the spark fades. We're going to unpack the fascinating psychology behind long-term attraction, so let's get right into it.
Okay, let's dive into this. It's a big, bold, maybe even a slightly taboo question, right? Why is it that someone else's spouse often just looks more attractive? Now, before anyone gets defensive here, the source material points out a really comforting fact. This is an incredibly common psychological phenomenon. It crosses almost everyone's mind at some point, and it's deeply rooted in how our brains process novelty, rather than being some massive moral failing. It's all about human psychology, not necessarily your character. So how does this actually play out?
Well, there's a massive contrast between myth and reality here. Think about it. When you see someone else's spouse, you're almost always seeing them in what we can call guest mode, right? They're dressed up, they're polite, they're offering you tea, and they're intentionally maintaining this status symbol. They're perfectly curated for the outside world. But your own spouse, you see them in responsibility mode. They're the ones doing the heavy lifting, managing those exhausting daily chores, walking around in their most comfortable, worn-out clothes. We essentially end up unfairly comparing someone else's highlight reel to our partner's behind-the-scenes exhaustion.
And that brings us to the core concept of today's explainer, the hidden treasure illusion. This is a psychological phenomenon where we, as human beings, are just intensely attracted to the mysterious, the unknown, and the untouched. Basically, the reason that other person looks so incredibly appealing is precisely because they are out of reach. There's this natural, magnetic allure to what we just don't know. Distance creates a sense of mystery, and our brains are literally wired to be curious about uncharted territory. It's the allure of the unknown acting like a giant magnet. Let's walk through the timeline of a typical marriage to see exactly how this fades over time. It all starts at stage 1, the newlywed phase. This is the high-effort era. The clinking bangles, the dressing up just to impress each other, that constant spark. But then, as we move into stage 2, family responsibilities start piling up. The main priority shifts to just managing a household. By the time we hit stage 3, the children era, the entire dynamic has fundamentally shifted. Those heavy domestic burdens have completely replaced the carefree romantic efforts of the early days, which ultimately leads us right into stage 4, a natural fading of that initial superficial attraction.
I want to pause for a second and really focus on this specific era. The source material emphasizes a deeply empathetic point here. For 7 to 8 years, a mother often completely forgets her own upkeep. She literally puts her own physical attraction on the back burner to pour every single ounce of her energy into raising her children. It is a period of total dedication. Because frankly, if she focuses entirely on herself, she can't focus on the kids. It's an enormous sacrifice, but it fundamentally changes the daily reality of the relationship.
So, while this incredible sacrifice is happening at home, what happens to our inherent psychology of mystery? Remember, human beings are naturally drawn to novelty. We are drawn to what we don't know. So when the mystery at home disappears, when it's replaced by routine, exhaustion, and utter familiarity, the human brain, which, let's face it, can sometimes be a bit selfish, naturally starts to wander toward the mysteries that still exist outside the home.
And this brilliantly illustrates the dynamic at play. The source material offers a really great analogy for this. Your spouse is the known. You know your partner so well that if the lights were completely off in a pitch-black room, you could instantly tell exactly where their hand or their foot is. There's absolutely zero mystery left. But a stranger? A stranger is the unknown. You have no idea what holding their hand would even feel like. They represent completely uncharted territory. And it's exactly that lack of experience, that total lack of knowing, that creates the illusion of a hidden treasure.
The harsh reality of long-term familiarity is that, as the text notes, even a woman as beautiful as a rose can lose her allure once the mystery is completely unveiled. The sheer act of being totally exposed to someone, knowing their every single habit and routine, well, it can naturally breed a loss of interest over time. Keeping the spark alive isn't just some cute romantic idea. It is incredibly challenging psychological work once everything about a person has become a daily, predictable routine.
Now, when couples sense this spark fading, they very often fall into what we'll call a jealousy trap. The source points out that getting fiercely jealous, giving the silent treatment, or demanding that your partner act like a blind man, someone who just miraculously never notices beauty anywhere else in the world, is a completely unrealistic way to handle this. Forcing someone to just shut off their natural human observation doesn't fix the underlying loss of the spark. Actually, scratch that, it makes it worse. It just breeds resentment and turns the home environment into a suffocating space.
So, what is the actual solution? The text points to a massive mindset shift. Imagine having the sheer confidence to say, "Look all you want, but you will stay mine because you won't find anyone like me." Instead of operating from a place of deep insecurity, restriction, and constant surveillance, you operate from a place of unshakable self-confidence. It completely flips the script on the jealousy trap.
Supreme confidence is far, far greater than restrictive jealousy. The reality is, if a partner is truly determined to look elsewhere, your restrictions, your snooping, and your arguments aren't going to magically stop them. They'll just get better at hiding it. But supreme self-assurance, that acts as a powerful and visible magnet. When you show that you are completely secure, it actually makes the other person want to stay rooted. Confidence is inherently attractive, whereas desperation and constant suspicion, not so much. The mutual mirror facing the physical reality. Now, what's really interesting about this point is how we confront the physical changes that happen over the years. The source provides us with these brilliantly witty analogies for this. In column 1, we have the wife who, after years of neglect and raising kids, might feel like she's expanding like a flour sack. But look at column 2. You have the husband, who the text describes as growing randomly in all directions like ginger, with a belly that is literally touching the table. Yet, the incredible double standard here is that the guy with the table-touching belly still fully expects his partner to have a perfectly slim waist. It's a hilarious yet piercing observation about mutual neglect. Which leads us to a very fair question. Where does the motivation come from? If one partner is expecting physical perfection but is completely letting themselves go, how is the other partner supposed to feel inspired? Like, why would a wife be motivated to work incredibly hard to flatten her stomach if her husband isn't putting a single ounce of effort into his own health and appearance? Motivation in a long-term relationship doesn't exist in a vacuum, guys. To fix this, we have to look at actionable steps for reigniting the spark. First, take a trip down memory lane. Remember how much effort you put into your appearance when you first met? Second, accept the reality that 99% of people need external motivation. They get inspired by seeing their partner try. Third, stop waiting for the other person to start. Someone has to take the first step. And fourth, you have to actively compete to impress each other again. That is literally the only way to effectively rebuild that mutual physical attraction that got lost in the routine of everyday life. So the crucial point is this: you cannot build a house without a foundation. And the foundation of a thriving, loyal, and passionate long-term intimate life is mutual physical and emotional attraction. It's just not going to magically sustain itself out of pure obligation. Both sides have to continually work at it. When the effort is mutual, the relationship is totally insulated from that hidden treasure illusion we talked about earlier, because the real treasure is being cultivated right at home. I want to leave you with this final provocative thought to chew on today. Look at your own relationships. Are you just sitting there waiting for your partner to magically change and put in the effort? Or are you ready to step up, put in the work yourself, and be the catalyst that actually motivates them? The spark doesn't just happen, it has to be ignited. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I hope this gave you a powerful new perspective to bring into your own life.